Standards-based grading, an explanation of the decision matrix. Some classes in our standards-based grading pilot have opted to use a decision matrix when determining the grade for their course. A significant difference in our standards-based grading model is that on any given assessment, a student may receive a score for each child standard the assessment addresses. For example, if a test assesses child standards 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B, then a student will receive multiple scores on the test so he or she understands their exact level of performance in each area of the assessment. In our example, after taking test 1, the student receives the following scores on child standards 1A, 1B, 2A, and 2B. A 2, a 2, a 3, and a 2. These are the scores you will see in Infinite Campus indicating the student is performing at the level of approaching proficiency on child standards 1A, 1B, and 2B, and the student is at the level of demonstrating proficiency on child standard 2A. Now let's fill in a few more scores to fill out a marking period, such as the first quarter. Our student has now taken 4 assessments during quarter 1, and you can see his combination of scores on each test for each child standard. A decision matrix is then used to determine the student's score on the child standard. The decision matrix is based on a bimodal system, so the child standard score is determined using a combination of first and second most common scores. So in this case, for child standard 1A, the student's most common score is a 3, and second most common score is a 2, indicating that overall the student has a score of 3 on child standard 1. Using the decision matrix, I will fill in the rest of the scores for this student. Now let's look at how a competency score and final grade are determined. Let's fill in the student's child standards grades for the year as determined in our bimodal system. To arrive at a score for each parent standard, we then average the scores of the child together. To arrive at a final score for the course, we then average the scores of the 4 parent standards together. In this case, the student's final score would be a 3.2. In our example, all child standards and parent standards are weighted equally. However, be sure to check the course syllabus to see if this is the case for your course, as some teams may weight child standards and parent standards differently. So what does that mean in terms of a letter grade? When determining a letter grade for this student, the following grading chart indicates how a numerical value is converted into a letter grade. In this case, the student's average of his 4 parent standard grades was a 3.175, which is rounded to a 3.2. A 3.2 is a B. This is the end of this presentation, and we hope that you found it helpful. If you have further questions about standards-based grading and the practices in your classroom, be sure to ask your child's teacher.